He's like my dad in a lot of ways. Once he and I got together, I knew that the combination was going to be magical.
We've had an unbelievable chemistry.
Really?
Sitting next to me right now is the best singer in the world.
This is not a drill. Clive Davis is dead. Right now, everybody line up, oldest to youngest. What happened? Get the biopics out now. He cannot hurt you anymore. He has no power over you.
For over 10 years, one agonizing question has haunted the industry. What was the cryptic message Whitney Houston scribbled onto a note and shoved into Brandy's palm while Clive Davis hovered just inches away? Only hours later, the unthinkable happened. Whitney was discovered lifeless in her hotel suite, leaving behind a chilling void and a mystery that continues to fracture her legacy. Now, with the iron-fisted Clive Davis finally gone, insiders and veteran observers suggest the vault of dark secrets is finally cracking open. It looks like the artists who were once paralyzed by fear are beginning to whisper, and suddenly, that long-buried note has returned to the epicenter of a massive, brewing scandal. Brandy has spent years stonewalling, claiming the note was far too intimate for public consumption. But as fresh reports and suppressed testimonies resurface, the speculation surrounding Whitney's final, crumbling hours is intensifying. The burning question remains, will Brandy finally break her silence on what she has been forced to bury all these years? Was that paper merely a private exchange between friends? Or was it a frantic, desperate warning from Whitney about the machinery operating in the shadows? If the whispers from the industry underground hold any truth, this story is about to rewrite the history of Whitney's final days entirely. And honestly, nobody was prepared for the nightmare that is finally coming to light.
Whitney Houston. Now, I knew you had a connection to her, but I didn't realize, and you write in the book, that shortly before her death, you had a lengthy phone call with her.
I did.
What was that call?
It mattered so much to me because I got a chance to tell her everything I hadn't told her, just how much she inspired me, how much I loved her, her impact in my life. And yeah, it was an emotional conversation. I didn't know it was going to be my last time speaking to her.
The music titan has fallen. According to his representatives, the legendary executive died at his Manhattan estate following a struggle with respiratory failure. He was 94. His family's official statement paints a portrait of a visionary, a man whose ruthless ambition and sharp instincts supposedly defined entire generations of sound. They credit him with handpicking and molding the industry's brightest icons, insisting his imprint on global culture is permanent. Yet, behind the polished tributes, Clive's death has triggered a firestorm that was clearly just waiting to ignite. While the establishment rushes to canonize his legacy, the shadows are closing in. Critics are seizing this moment to exhume the rotting accusations that dogged his every move. This is where the narrative turns dark. It's undeniable that Clive built empires, but the industry's architects designed a machine that served the boardroom, not the stage. For years, explosive financial wars involving acts like TLC and Toni Braxton have stained the record, fueling the sickening reality that artists were left with global fame while their bank accounts were systematically gutted. Now, with Clive silenced, the floodgates have opened. Once buried grievances and haunting industry rumors are surging back into the light. Insiders are finally starting to ask the question no one dared whisper before. Was the true price of that legendary superstardom paid in blood and deception? One commentator put it bluntly, Clive wasn't just an executive. He was the face of a regime that artists lived in fear of, a power they were paralyzed to challenge until now. It appears that Brandy, through her intimate bond with Whitney, may have been given a terrifying glimpse into the labyrinthine darkness of Clive Davis's empire. The origin story of their partnership dates back to 1983 at a New York nightclub called Sweetwater. Clive snagged Whitney at just 19, locking her into an Arista Records contract that would seal her fate. Initially, he played the part of the savior, the mentor maneuvering Whitney through the shark-infested waters of the industry and dictating every move of her meteoric rise. Together, they engineered her debut masterpiece, a record that shattered global charts with 25 million copies sold, catapulting Whitney into a stratosphere of fame she would never truly escape. But the facade began to crack. Whitney eventually confessed that she and Clive were constantly at war over creative control. They reportedly locked horns over every song choice and every pivot in her trajectory, leaving her trapped in a battle for her own artistic identity. Even while the world watched them hug on stage, Whitney played the game, publicly bowing to Clive as her industry father while thanking him for his so-called wisdom. But now, Fans are digging deeper, convinced that those public creative disputes were merely the surface-level tremors of a much more violent instability lurking in the shadows.
What was it? What did you see in him? What made him different? Why Clive Davis?
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom, his know-how. For a lot of artists, I wanted the guidance. I wanted to know, what made a hit record, and what made me, special, and it could be any.
As Whitney's fame hit a fever pitch, insiders claim the dynamic between her and Clive shifted into something volatile. The more success she commanded, the more she fought to claw back control over her own empire. By 2012, the bond that once seemed bulletproof had effectively disintegrated. By then, Whitney's circle of trust had shrunk to almost nothing. Brandy was one of the few who remained. They first crossed paths in 1995, forging an instant, intense connection, with Whitney taking the younger star under her wing. Their bond grew so profound that Whitney personally maneuvered to get Brandy cast as Cinderella in the 1997 classic, acting as her fairy godmother both on-screen and in the real, cutthroat world. So, when Whitney unexpectedly stalked onto the set while Brandy was filming an interview with Monica and Clive, no one raised an alarm. It seemed like a simple gesture of support. But reports suggest a far more sinister play was in motion. Whitney spent the bulk of her time locked in conversation with Clive and Monica, dropping a chilling detail that she had nearly drowned earlier that day. Then, in a maneuver that has fueled years of dark speculation, she slid a handwritten note into Brandy's palm before turning to embrace Clive. Seconds later, Whitney summoned her daughter, Bobby Christina, ordering her to hug Clive, a calculated distraction that observers now believe was designed to buy Brandy enough time to read the contents without eyes on her.
It's my dad. It's my dad. I'll see you later. I'll see you later. Mom, come see her. Come say hi to Come say hi to your godfather. Come say hi to your goddad.
Once the interview concluded, Brandy reportedly remained tethered to Whitney for nearly 3 hours on a final, harrowing phone call. Just 48 hours later, Whitney Houston was dead. This devastating sequence of events is precisely why the obsession with that cryptic note persists. Brandy stands as one of the final people to ever commune with the legend, fueling the agonizing question: what urgency forced Whitney to materialize unannounced and pass a secret missive under such a watchful eye? For years, Brandy has maintained a wall of silence, shielding the note's contents as too intimate for the public record. Her only breadcrumb was a whisper that Whitney promised to get better, a vow that, in a cruel twist of fate, withered away. Now, with Clive Davis removed from the equation, the archives of rumor and long-buried grievances are being pried open. Observers are betting that his passing will finally embolden those silenced by years of industry pressure to break their omerta. Internet lore suggests that raw, unadulterated fear was the primary weapon used to keep the inner circle quiet. Whether Brandy will ever strip away the mystery and reveal the truth remains the ultimate unknown. Yet, one reality is indisputable. The echoes of that final exchange have haunted the public consciousness for more than a decade.
In that 1995 meeting in Beverly Hills in the home of Clive Davis, who was responsible for the murder of Whitney Houston, I said it. His days are numbered.
Back in 2012, Brandy and Monica were reuniting to launch their latest single, It All Belongs to Me. At that time, Monica's career remained tightly tethered to Clive Davis, and it was widely reported that she wouldn't make a move on the collaboration without his blessing. Rumors within the industry suggested Clive's interests extended far beyond just the music. Whispers claimed he was actively maneuvering to deepen his professional grip on Brandy, eyeing her for his own business empire. According to persistent industry speculation, Whitney caught wind of these maneuvers and acted with lightning speed to contact Brandy. This is the moment, legend has it, that the now infamous note came into play. For over a decade, the narrative has swirled that Whitney used that handwritten warning to caution Brandy about the predatory deals she was signing and the dangerous loyalties required in the industry. While these claims remain unverified, they continue to ignite heated debate online. Critics have long asserted that Clive's strategy was to isolate artists within a self-contained ecosystem of his own loyalists. Many of the key players on Whitney's original team held deep, long-standing ties to Clive. While this was officially marketed as a protective support network for a rising star, observers have long questioned if this structure was actually designed to strip Whitney of her autonomy as her superstardom skyrocketed. Fans frequently point to the aborted collaborations between Whitney and Michael Jackson as a prime example of this industry control. In 1987, Michael reportedly lobbied to have Whitney join him on I Just Can't Stop Loving You, and she was said to be eager. The project never materialized, officially blamed on scheduling conflicts. Years later, the pattern repeated itself when plans for Michael to feature on If I Told You that dissolved under nearly identical circumstances. To this day, fans are left wondering what kind of history might have been written if those collaborations had actually seen the light of day. It is widely rumored that Whitney eventually grew suspicious of why her planned collaborations with Michael Jackson never materialized. Many fans believe she suspected these were not merely scheduling conflicts, but a deliberate move to keep her from working with an artist known for fighting for his own masters, a move that might have inspired Whitney to demand similar control over her own career. Unlike Michael, Whitney reportedly lacked that same degree of creative and financial autonomy. Instead of creating what could have been the greatest duet in music history, she was funneled into collaborations with other Aristo-affiliated artists, such as Aretha Franklin. Critics suggest these pairings were orchestrated more for the label's strategic benefit than the artist's own growth. Despite this, Whitney persisted in her fight for independence. By 2001, she secured a landmark $100 million deal with Arista. While the headlines touted it as a historic victory, with roughly $40 million paid up front and the remainder tied to performance metrics, the reality behind the scenes was far less rosy. Over the years, insiders have alleged that Whitney's later work lacked the promotional muscle of her early career, with the label blaming poor sales on market shifts and digital piracy. As her momentum slowed, financial pressures reportedly mounted, leaving her burdened by substantial debts linked to earlier advances and complex contractual demands. Simultaneously, Whitney was grappling with intense personal battles, and her legendary vocal prowess was reportedly beginning to fade. Her health and professional standing were both under heavy strain. The mystery deepened further due to persistent rumors regarding death-related contractual clauses, a standard, yet often opaque, feature of high-level entertainment agreements. When Whitney tragically passed away in 2012, the timing, occurring the same weekend as Clive Davis's annual pre-Grammy Gala at the same hotel, shocked the public. The fact that the party proceeded as scheduled remains a point of intense controversy and speculation to this day.
Well, you're a very small minority, because if you knew Whitney better, you knew she was not there to perform.
Yeah.
This was her favorite night of the year. She came out every year. This party was so part of her.
So you're saying that she
so that the family, we spoke to representatives of Pat, who was a manager, and Gary, who was her brother.
Her body was still upstairs.
But we dedicated the evening. Whitney would have wanted this party to go on any more than the Grammys should stop.
It is perhaps the most unsettling fragment of this entire saga. For over a decade, the final hours of Whitney Houston have remained shrouded in unanswered questions, enigmatic encounters, and hushed conversations that many believe were never truly laid to rest. From the covert note pressed into Brandy's palm, to that final, harrowing phone call, to the shadows that continue to stalk the industry's greatest icons, it is clear this narrative is far from over. Now that Clive Davis has left the stage, the world is waiting to see if those who were once bound by silence will finally break their vows. Was Whitney attempting a desperate act of protection? Was that note merely a private exchange, or the key to a buried truth? One reality stands unshaken. Whitney's legacy continues to demand accountability, and the truth, regardless of how deep it remains buried, is still waiting to emerge.